welcome to NDIYO. I'm Nikki, and today we are going to go over some basic terms and modifications while using our aerial hammock. So these are great to know while you're taking class. Sometimes we won't always include all of the different modifications and variations that you can be using. So it's really important that you know them beforehand and understand what works best for you and your aerial practice. Okay. We are going to start with going over some basic terminology of our hammock. So right now, I have my aerial hammock set up at inversion heights. There's a whole other video on the 4 different heights we'll go over. So check that out too. But my aerial hammock. Okay. These are the rails or the poles. You will hear both terms used. And so we'll say things like, your right hand is going to grab onto your right rail. So it's when you are facing your swing, this is my right hand and this is my right rail. I know it looks opposite to you, but that's how we're going to find it. Or left hand is going to reach over and grab right rail. Got it? All right, so this is the base of your swing or your hammock. So we'll use this a lot, and sometimes our hands are going to be shoulders distance apart. Maybe they'll be together or just one, but this is the base of the hammock. Then we can open up the hammock fully. And now we have created 4 different rails or poles. That's a little bit different once we open up the fabric. It's not technically a rail, but you'll hear us say grab the front left rail or the front right rail while you're standing inside of the hammock. Or if you're going to grab the back, right? Or the front base of the swing or the back base of the swing. Your front and back is just going to be which way you are facing in your hammock. So when we practice yoga or Pilates, right, we start and we align our mat. Sometimes we have a little tag on our mat, right, and that's always in one place or the other, so we know which way is front and back. But in the hammock, we get to move in all different directions and angles for different poses, so it can get a little bit confusing. So it's always just which is in front of you, which is behind, which is on your right, which one's on your left. So it's kind of the basic of our hammock that we're going to go over today, and these are terms that you're going to hear in class. Next up, we're going to talk about our grip. So we have a couple different variations that we can use for our grip, and you can interchange them depending on what you're doing or how you're feeling that day. Our first one we're going to go over is going to be a double wrist wrap. This one is going to be the most supportive. So if you stand behind the hammock, have your 2 rails split, hands are going to go on the outside. Then both hands are going to come into the center, splitting the rails, bringing them back behind, and then open those hands out to the side again. Bring the hands back into the center, bring them back through the center, splitting the rails again, and then you're going to grab on to the fabric. So holding on to those rails, if you look down, that fabric's going to be wrapped around twice. So when we start doing hanging stuff, now our fabric is going to give us more support with our grip strength. So if you're working on building your grip strength, your double wrist wrap is going to be your new best friend. Okay, then once you graduated from your double wrist wrap and you want to reduce the support, make it a little bit harder for you to hold on to the fabric, you're going to go for a single wrist wrap. Hands are going to go on the outside. Hands come together, splitting the rails, and then this time you're just going to flip the palms around to face both rails, thumbs and fingers face forward, and then hold on to those rails. And we'll tell you which way we want your palms to face. But now we have less support. So if I were to start to hang here, it's going to take a little bit more for my grip to catch than when I'm in a double wrist wrap. That fabric is pretty tight around my wrist. So you have your double wrist wrap, then your single, and then you have no wrist wrap. We're just holding on to the rails. So you just grab on, and this is where you really have to work on that grip strength. The fabric can be slippery, so work up to this. Okay, that is going to be your different grip options. At any point in time through class, if we're like, okay, single wrist wrap, and you're like, I kind of need a double one, just use your double one. That's great. Next up, we're going to talk about the hammock position when we're doing our warrior poses or our lunges. So from here, any time we're going to put a foot or a leg in the base of the hammock, we want to make sure there's not fabric all over to trip over. So if your fabric's open and you're trying to get your leg in, it's going to be way more difficult. Make this easy on yourself and safer. So you're going to take those rails, split them, slide your hands down to the base, leaving yourself a space to slide your foot through. From here, press down on the fabric. You'll find your balance on one leg, and then you're going to place the other one through. So we're going to place that fabric above the knee, underneath your thigh. So when the fabric is scrunched together, it's going to put a little bit more pressure on that muscle that it's on, no matter if it's on the leg or the back or wrapped around our arm. So this is going to be a little bit more unstable as well. So when we start to go into our warrior poses, it may kind of wiggle wobble all over the place. The fabric sometimes has a mind of its own, and we need to be in control of it. Speaking of that, little side note, when you hold on to the rails, you're going to pull down on them as well as press down with the leg. No matter where our leg position is and where our fabric is supporting us, we always want to press down on our fabric and pull down on the rails so we have control over the fabric instead of it going all over the place. The other thing to always keep in mind is where you are in relation to your anchor point. So if you're really off to the side and you go to do a warrior, well, it's going to take you back to your fabric's midline. So at any point in time, you're going to get comfortable doing your little hops. Check in. Make sure the base of your swing is under your anchor point, and then you can move from there a little bit more easily. All right, back to our legs. Sorry, sidetrack, but it was important. I had to tell you. Okay, from here, if we want to add a little bit more support and a little bit more stability, you can just find a piece of that fabric, and you're going to pull it up over your thigh. So now we don't have as much fabric kind of poking into the back of our hamstrings, especially if they're sensitive. Now that fabric is a little bit more spread out, and we're a little bit more supported. So from here, we may not go quite as far into our lunge or our warrior. The fabric may not swing from side to side, and you're still going to be able to hold onto the fabric, but your back rails, you're just going to grab a handful of them and pull down. So that handful is going to work very similarly as if you were to grab onto the whole fabric, which you can do as well. I know, so many options. That's why this practice is so beautiful. It can be adjusted for anyone and for any day of the week, right? Kind of what you're feeling. Okay, that's for our warrior series. Now, if we're going to get into our leg stretching series, we have a few options for that as well. So you're going to always slide the hands down the fabric to cinch the fabric together to then bring that foot out. Okay, we want to make sure our fabric isn't all folded and twisted on one another. Once we know it's not, then cinch it back up together. Slide the hands down the rails. This time, you're going to hook your heel in the front rail. So on that front of the base of the swing, you're going to press down. Then you're going to extend the leg, and you're going to slide your fabric all the way up over your hamstring. So with the foot pressing down in the front of the base of the swing, and our hamstrings pressing down in the back base of the swing, and our whole leg is supported, now we have this nice support from the hammock, and we can still pull down on our rails for when we start to do our splits. This will help keep us in a smaller range of motion. It supports the leg, and it's not so unstable. Amazing, right? Okay, once you're like, ooh, getting the hang of this, we start working into all of our leg stretches. Then we can increase it. So now you can take the fabric and slide it off your thigh. So now it's just going to be underneath the calf and still under the ankle. So from here, it's just going to be a little bit less support, but still, this is level number 2. We have 3 of them. Then if we want a little bit more, you're going to slide that fabric, cinch it all the way together, unhook it from the heel, and now it's just going to go around the back of the ankle. Still pulling down on those rails, and now the fabric has a little bit more range of motion to get deeper into your stretch. It's also a little less stable, so you're going to have to work harder in our muscles and our stabilizing our joints. And we're going to find more control and balance with it. So as you progress through classes, you have multiple options to keep increasing or decreasing your intensity. All right, so get that foot out, slide the hands down the rails again, unhook that heel, and release that leg. So those are all balancing with one leg in the hammock. If we're not quite there, no big deal. We have another option, which is also a great option. Sometimes I just love this option just because I like this pose, and you get a different stretch with it. So this is going to be called backpack straps. How to get into this? You're going to split those rails. Hands are going to go up the rails, and fabric's going to be around the back. You're going to slide the hands down, and you're going to place the fabric around your shoulder blades and under your armpits. This is used for multiple different poses and exercises, standing, sitting, kneeling, a whole bunch. So you'll hear backpack straps a lot. So this is it. Sometimes if we're sitting, our backpack straps are going to be more supported. Sometimes when we're standing, we have to push into our rails to get it more supported. So if we're going through our lunges, our warrior series, and you don't really feel like finding that balance today and having one leg in your hammock, no big deal. You can always do that same flow or sequence on the ground with backpack straps. And the backpack straps are going to allow you to find more length in the spine and not sink so heavy in the hips. So if we come into a lunge, you can press into the rails, and it's going to help find length through the spine, and then press the heart forward and up. So we're always making sure we're drawing our abs in to protect our lower back, but to get a little bit of that thoracic extension and deeper stretch through the front line of the body, this is a really great tool. And then we can move into Warrior 2. You can find a twist. I love twisting in backpack straps. You get much deeper in that twist, and we find so much more length in our spine. So, great one to keep in mind. Okay, now I'm going to teach you crochet wrap. So your crochet wrap is with the legs when we're in an inversion. There's multiple different ways to use a crochet wrap, especially once you get into aerial arts and full silks. But for this purpose, we're going to show you from a basic inversion. I'm not going to walk you through the inversion. There is a pose directory that'll break it down perfectly for you, as well as that swing height to tell you where your inversion height of your hammock is. So this is just to teach you crochet wrap. Okay, so go ahead and open that fabric. You're going to find your inversion and bring the legs in. Okay, from here, I'm going to show you a crochet wrap with my right leg. So the leg is going to come towards the front. I'll stop from swinging. It'll come towards the front, towards your face. You're going to bend the knee, bring it towards the center in between both rails. You're going to hook that foot around the fabric, so my toes are sticking out on the other side. And then from here, keep straightening the leg and wrapping that foot around the fabric. So then once you extend that leg up, you're going to sickle that foot in to hold on to the fabric. That is going to be your crochet wrap. You can do it with one leg. You can do it with both legs. And then we'll come on up out of our inversion. So these are great modifications and basic terminology to be able to use while using our aerial hammock. We can also use our handles if we have created our handles from our hammock or if we have a yoga swing. So with the hammock, mine, I just have one handle, one length, and it becomes useful for stabilizing or doing arm exercises. The aerial or the yoga swing, most of them have 3 different handle lengths, and those can be really great to help use for balance. So we're going to go back to our warrior 1 position. And so those handles are a great way to go ahead and slide the hands in or hold onto them to give yourself a little bit more support if you don't want to rely on just holding onto the rails. So sometimes when we get into balancing stretches and exercises, it's a great tool to have if you have access to it. If not, no big deal. Another way to help with balance, if you want a prop next to you while you're learning, just in case you have a little wibble wobble here and there, you can always put a very sturdy chair next to you. And so as you're going through that warrior series, if just in case you need it, that chair's there for support. It works like a great prop. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining. I look forward to practicing with you soon here on NDIYO.